We are staying in the Bronx tonight where there is more heartbreak.
On Saturday, March 5th, police responded to the ground floor apartment of 26-year-old Gabrielle Muniz when a welfare check was called in for her just a little before midnight. When they got there, they found Gabrielle and her 6-year-old daughter, Rozara Estevez, in a bedroom, stabbed multiple times. Both victims were unconscious and unresponsive. EMS was called and pronounced them dead at the scene. Some media reported that a family member had called the well check-in, while other media said that somebody on the 3rd floor of that apartment complex had heard a banging and was concerned and called the police. The New York Post reported that Gabrielle had stab wounds to her head, her neck, and her arms, while Rozara suffered blunt force trauma to the head and multiple stab wounds to the face.
Tonight, detectives worked at the crime scene that some of them describe as the worst they've ever seen. 26-year-old Gabrielle Muniz and her 6-year-old daughter Rozara were found stabbed to death, their family in disbelief.
Sources say that the little girl was found dead in her bed underneath the blankets. Investigators say that they found multiple knives at the scene. Caleb Dewberry, 35 years old, was the primary suspect. Now, some media reported that he was her ex-boyfriend, but her mom actually said that he was her current boyfriend. His name was on the lease of the apartment, apparently had been put on there a few months ago, and the last time that they were seen together on security footage was 9:30 p.m. on Friday night when they were taking out the trash. That seems like they were probably still a couple. Security cameras the next day showed him coming and going quite a bit in the morning, and then he finally left for good around 4 p.m. Now, sometime later, and all of these times don't necessarily add up for me, so I'm not sure if it's a reporting issue, but some hours later, police responded to a call about a gunman being barricaded somewhere. So they went to an apartment that was some blocks away, apparently his apartment. And as police closed in on him, sources say that he killed himself by stabbing himself to death. And I just have to note that as far as looking into these cases and doing this for as long as I have and as much as I have, a perpetrator stabbing themselves to death, anybody stabbing themselves to death, is extremely uncommon. It's not super common for people to stab children, but it's not out of the question. But this guy was capable of stabbing a 6-year-old in the face multiple times, and then he stabbed himself to death. I don't know exactly what that looks like. If he stabbed himself in the chest, if he stabbed himself in the neck, if he slit his wrists. I don't know what stabbing himself to death looks like for this case in particular, but for somebody to do that, it's not common. It kind of makes me wonder if he was on something at this time. Maybe not. It'll be interesting to see what the autopsy shows if they report that in the media. It's also interesting to me, and I don't have that information, if there was a gunman barricaded. If he had a gun, why didn't he shoot himself instead of stabbing himself to death? Unless it was a remorse thing. But it's just so graphically violent, and most people wouldn't do that. It really goes against like that self-preservation thing. I wish that they would reveal more in the investigations than what they do. Gabrielle's sister, Giselle, said, "I'm disgusted with what happened, not only because it took my sister, but my niece. I'm sure she watched her mommy die before she was taken." Gabrielle originally was from Florida, and that apparently is where her mother and her sister still live. I don't know about the dad, it didn't say. She and Dewberry have been together for less than a year, and it was reported that Rozara is not his child. And if I understand it correctly, that Rozara didn't care for him particularly, maybe because she saw something in him that her mom missed. Yannicka Rocha, Gabrielle's mom, told reporters, "I saw red flags. I encouraged her to get out of the relationship." And I know it's hard. I know it's hard from personal experience. It's not just me blowing smoke up your skirt. I know it's hard. But if you can figure out a way to understand that when somebody who loves you tells you that this person is bad for you, tells you that they don't trust this person and they don't like this person. There's something wrong. They have a bad feeling about this person, and they are encouraging you to get out of this relationship or to not start it in the first place, it would be really great if you would listen. I have been that person who did not listen. No shame whatsoever from me if you don't, but if you can figure out a way to make it great enough that this person loves you, and they're saying this because they love you and they're worried, that will save you so much heartache and maybe save your life. Like I said, I have been that person. I am that person now. So I 150,000% understand. But if I would have listened to people in my past when they said stuff like that, people who I knew loved me, I knew cared about me, I knew had my best interest at heart, instead of thinking that I knew more than them, well, you don't really know him like I know him, I would have saved myself a lot of grief. So that's a warning from one survivor to another. Her mom said that though she had only talked to him over the phone, she described him as possessive. Possessive is a red flag. I know that his baby mother wanted nothing to do with him. That's a huge red flag for me, she said. I just had an idea that my baby was going to end up dead.
I knew from the beginning who it was, and I just knew he's possessive, just possessive. I feel like I'm in shock. I feel like I'm keeping it pretty much together.
Previous baby mama doesn't want anything to do with him. That is a red flag. And if this mom had a feeling that he might kill her daughter, that's a huge red flag. That should have been communicated to the daughter. Hopefully it was. And the daughter should listen. You don't go up to your loved ones normally and be like, hey, yo, I feel like that person's going to kill you. That's not a feeling that you get a whole lot. When you have it, or somebody else has it, it's worth listening to. I don't know if she ever told Gabrielle that she was concerned about her dying at his hands or not, but it would have been a good thing for her to say. And a lot of times we see this stuff and we don't say anything because we don't want to offend them or step on their toes, or, well, what if they break up and then they get back together and then I look like the bad guy because I said something? I understand all of that. But when you're afraid that somebody's going to kill somebody, it just needs to be said. Her father, Gabrielle Muniz, told Eyewitness News that just last year he was worried enough that he asked police to do a welfare check on her. And he said, quote, of course she was afraid, so when they knocked on her door, everything was supposedly fine.
This relationship has been going on for years. And, I didn't like the guy. He used to take her money. He had control over her bank account.
Gabrielle's father says Dewberry didn't like his daughter's career goals and even became violent.
She told me that, yes, he used to beat her up. He broke 3 laptops that she had, because he was jealous that, she was being on the process of becoming a professional.
Her sister Giselle told the media, I'm really good with vibes, and I honestly didn't like him. I just knew that she was happy. And their intuition was right. He was on parole for first-degree assault, and he had numerous arrests from gun possession to robbery to assault. This was a dangerous, violent person. And her mother, her father, and her sister all had intuition that said, this is not a good person. This is not somebody to be trusted. There was all kinds of red flags here, which were ignored. And now a mother and her daughter are dead.
He had 5 prior felony convictions, and he was on parole.
Giselle says that Gabrielle worked from home for a law firm and was studying pharmacology in college with the hope of becoming a doctor. She was doing so well. I never expected this to happen, Giselle said. She did so much for her daughter. That was her main motivation. I actually looked up to her.
I always made fun of her and called her the golden child. I actually looked up to her. My mom tells me to live for her, and I'm going to do that. My daughter was an amazing daughter, mother, sister, friend. She's that girl that everyone wanted to be like. An amazing mom. She was a single mother. She was doing it all by herself. She was going to school, studying for medicine. Pharmacology.
Rozara was a little beam of sunshine, Giselle said. She loved her unicorns. She was so sweet. Just thinking about her and hearing her voice in my head. I can't believe this has happened to her too. She was so sweet and innocent. She just turned 6. A neighbor said, "It's a lot to take in, especially on a block where nothing bad ever happens. It can happen anywhere, and it does happen everywhere, all of the time. Women are dying, children are dying, other people that are around them at the time are dying. Way more than I can put up on YouTube. Do you know the red flags? Are you paying attention? Are you learning?" I've been doing this now for over a year. I wrote a book about this 4 years ago now. It could have saved this woman and her daughter. I wish more people would get this information. I wish more people would learn. I know that we missed doing any kind of a live last month. We will do one this month. It is my goal. It's on my my list of stuff to do. I'm just trying to get work caught up to a point where I can then focus back on YouTube more. I feel like I got COVID and then I had surgery and everything has been a whirlwind for the last several months. And so I don't love where I'm at right now as far as my mind goes, as far as my body goes, as far as work goes, but I almost have work caught up and then we will move forward with this. I think it's going to be good. So if there are topics that you would like to talk about, will you let me know in the comments or email me so that I can kind of get an idea of what maybe we should talk about when we do the next live, and then we'll try to do it in the next couple of weeks. I'm thinking probably not next week, but the week afterwards. So get a hold of me. I hope you all are doing well. I'm glad to see you. And until I see you again, please stay safe.
Gilma, it is just really hard to process something like this. A young mother and her child are dead. We are just learning from police sources that they were both stabbed essentially all over their body. That 6-year-old little girl even stabbed in the face. We are now also learning the name of the suspect who was that young mother's boyfriend. His name is Caleb Dewberry.